All right, everybody, welcome back to the TikTok podcast. My name is Matthew,
And I'm Sam.
and we're going to be doing a podcast today. And we got a couple topics we'd like to talk about.
Right?
Like,
Dang right. Today, we don't actually have a guest. It is just us. But we do have some interesting topics we'd like to talk about. So let's get started, shall we?
yes.
All right. So today's topic of discussion is about if we're living in a computer simulation or not.
Yeah, Sam, do you think that we are living in a computer simulation?
I personally don't, but I can't deny the odds and possibility that it is possible. And we actually have some theories later on that are going to sort of explain the whereabouts around how certain scientists have kind of developed this theory, and whether we think maybe it might be true or not. So, what about you, Matthew? Do you think it's possible?
Well, there are certain things that we'd have to require for it to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a possibility that we are, and there's also a possibility, like a very large possibility that we aren't.
Okay.
Depends on what the requirements are met.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a specific percentage of odds that is pretty universally known that we are and aren't? Or
it's
is it
not
just
really
completely...
odds. It's not odds because, okay, there's this article that I read a while ago that has 3 different requirements, right? Well, not requirements, but 3 different things. And if one of them is true, we are in a simulation. If the other 2 are true, then we aren't.
All right.
Or one of the other 2. There's 3 possible things that could happen. So, I'll read these to you. 1. The fraction of human-level civilizations that reach a post-human stage is very close to 0. Now, post-human, it means technology, or humans that have the amount of technology where they can pretty much do anything. So it's above humans, pretty much is what I think they're saying here.
Okay, so it's not humans are extinct. It's no more progression. Is that what I'm getting from here?
Yeah, I feel like that post-human stage, we're beyond humans.
Is
right?
it human or humane?
Human.
Human, okay.
Okay, so I'll read it again. The fraction of human-level civilizations, that means human-level civilization, like the one we're in right now.
Right.
That reach a post-human stage, okay?
All right.
So the amount of civilizations like the one we're living in right now, the fraction of them that reach a post-human stage is very close to zero.
Okay.
So it's pretty much saying that the odds that any civilization of humans get to the level where we are able to create a simulation as realistic as life that we live right now is very low.
Okay.
And that humans probably will not reach that stage. That's what that's saying.
All right.
So that's one option that could happen. Option number 2. The fraction of post-human civilizations that are interested in running ancestor simulations is very close to 0.
All right.
This one is saying that if we do make it to that point, or we could create a simulation like this, as realistic as we're living right now, we wouldn't want to.
Right, true. And I guess that goes to creating a simulation like the one we're living in right now. Even if we had the technology, it would be a lot of work. So I'm guessing
and what would be
someone
the point?
would
It would
really
be,
want
I guess
to.
maybe they could watch us and see how humans act, but it would be a computer to them, right?
Right.
Try to imagine getting to the point where we could create a simulation like this.
Mm-hmm.
How would we view it?
That's true.
And how would we...
how would it work in general? That's what I'm kind of confused about. Because, you feel stuff. You're not completely made of technology. We're made of
well,
certain
if you
things.
think
So
of a Sims character, right? Or any character in a video game,
yeah.
they can feel stuff designed on programming. If they run into
Yeah,
a
but the
wall,
physical
to them that wall
characters
feels
themselves-
real. Well, yeah, that's why there's so much that goes into this.
Right.
And it needs to be so much technology. But I'm saying, a very basic is what we have right now. If you're playing a video game and you run into a wall,
Yep.
it stops you. It's a real wall because it's programmed there.
That's true, yeah.
So we can set up that kind of thing. But the thing that's really hard to simulate, I think, would be consciousness.
Yeah.
And having your actual simulants, or I don't know how was it
Simulants.
simulations.
That might be a word.
Simulants,
We get
is that what a person inside a simulation is called?
Object, I'm not sure. entity.
Your people inside your simulation need to feel like they're alive. I feel like I'm alive.
Yeah.
But it's by a brain, right? And
That's
the brain
true.
tells you that you're alive. What if your brain is just a bunch of
Oh,
coding
that is
telling you what you should be feeling? All right.
Interesting.
Third option. The fraction of all people with our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to 1. Now this one's really hard to understand. We gotta try to break it down, I guess. The fraction of all people... Okay, so let's just say... Let's get rid of the first part. So all people with our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to 1.
So the 1 is that like 1% or like what?
The
what
fraction?
exactly, the odds?
Oh, wait.
Oh, you know what? I think it means is
The
like 1
fraction
is like
is
100%.
1. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I get it. So so this isn't necessarily true, but if it was true, then we probably are.
Okay,
living
so
in
it is
simulation.
saying that all people with our kind of experiences, as meaning the infinite universes, well, not infinite universes, but let's say in any possibility of human existence, if they had experiences similar to ours, our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to 1. Because what it's saying is, if there was ever one simulation created, so, okay.
Kind of complicated. I mean, I'm pretty sure our listeners don't really understand this either, so try to figure this out with us.
Okay, so when the world was created, okay, there's one point where the world was first created.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And if humans were born then, they evolved and they reached post-human civilization, and they were able to create a simulation as realistic as this one.
Right.
And if they did, then that means that inside that simulation, the odds are that they also created a simulation inside that.
Right, okay.
So then it's an endless chain of simulations and simulations inside of simulations.
It depends on, okay, so is it, now you probably don't know this, but is this dependent on like having the same exact events occur in that simulation that was by the people who created it in the first place?
See, that's interesting.
Because if that was, then there would be a 100% chance that the simulation would be made, because the same exact events would happen based on what happened before in the world
see, that's even
created the
crazier to
simulation.
think about. Think about this. We're having this conversation.
Yep.
And there's infinite other inside of simulations having this conversation. But what if we are the first ones? We don't know that. We don't know if we're the people who were the first here in the universe and created the first simulation.
Right.
Like, eventually, we might
So
create the
if
first
there
simulation.
were an infinite amount of our conversations,
But the odds are
probability
we are
that we were
in
the first one.
Yeah,
is,
the odds are that we are in a simulation. If that's true,
because
we are one of the infinites.
we probably are not in the first universe that made the simulation. So, yeah,
exactly.
that makes a lot more sense.
So let's go through all of them one more time.
Just to, yeah.
Okay. Actually, I think they might go through them one more time somewhere else.
Try and see.
All right.
I'm bringing up a couple of articles here too.
Oh, they go through all of them here. Okay. So.
You find it?
Prevent us from going.
I
Okay.
actually have an interesting fact here too.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so according to this article, the Neil deGrasse Tyson, you probably know him. He's the famous astronomer. Put the odds at 50-50 that our entire existence is a program on someone else's hard drive, which is very interesting. Now, I'm not sure
50-50.
entirely what he's saying. This is sort of a brief summation of what he said before, but I just thought that was an interesting fact that he, as a very famous and very smart astronomer, actually thought that. So, well, and that's interesting as well, because someone else's hard drive. So someone else would have to make the hard drive or some sort of storage space that would allow you to store certain things on it. And if they did, it would be vastly different than what we would have now. Because now our hard drives, you can store programs on it, but maybe their hard drives or units of storing stuff allowed for the storage of simulations like life in general, where the entities can actually feel stuff and be conscious, and talk to each other and all that kind of stuff on their own, which is interesting. So But
I found
I
a
don't know.
video here. I think if I play it through my laptop speakers, the microphone will pick it up.
Let's see.
This is Neil
Take it
deGrasse
louder.
Tyson explaining why we are likely living inside of a simulation. Let's see if this will work.
Are we living in simulation? I find it hard to argue against that possibility. Meaning, you look at our computing power today, and you say, I have the power to program a world inside of a computer. Well, imagine in the future where you have even more power than that. You can create characters that have, for example, free will, or their own perception of free will. So this is a world, and I program in the laws that govern that world. That world will have its own laws of physics and chemistry and biology. Now, you're a character in that world, and you think you have free will, and you say, I want to invent a computer. So you do. Hey, I want to create a world in my computer. And then that world creates a world in its computer. And then you have simulations all the way down. So now you lay out all these universes and throw a dart. Which of these universes are you most likely to hit? The original one that started it? Or the countless simulations, the daughter simulations that unfolded thereafter? You're going to hit one of the simulations.
All right, so that pretty much sums up the third possibility of that humans actually could make a simulation and we wanted to.
Right. That makes sense.
So if one ever was made, then we are probably living in one.
I mean, if one... So here's the thing. So, like, we do have natural resources on here. We do have a limited amount of resources. So the area of advancement is kind of getting to the point where it's going to, like, flatline. So, because if we use up, like... we do have so much more of resources left, but if we get to that point where we just kind of like hit the top, so like think about it as like a phone. Like a phone can only get so thin before you can't really get any thinner than that. So there's a point in which technology can flatline. So we don't know if it's possible to actually create a simulation like this in with our Earth's materials. Per se, and physics
eventually
in general,
we're going to be able to expand.
That's true.
If we ever manage to get to like 99% of light speed and go to other planets where we can get resources, I mean, that's how I think humans are going to be able to expand way more than like we come with. Like, there's like steps, right? If you think about it, when we first started on Earth, and then there's like Stone Age, and then we went to the different ages, right?
Right.
And pretty soon we're going to reach the end of this age of technology.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be no way to expand any further until, like, one invention changes everything. And I think it's going to be a way to travel at speeds where we could reach other planets.
There is a physics issue with that, and I didn't really take physics class, so I'm not really too qualified to talk about this. But I think traveling at the speed of light, or even just slightly slower than the speed of light, might be impossible because it would essentially rip us apart. Now, if... There is a possibility, because I know that, like, if you travel in a car, you don't actually feel like you yourself are going 60 miles an hour, or like, you know, at 70 on the highway.
Well,
so there is a
biggest problem
possibility
is
with
acceleration.
Inertia. Yeah.
How do you get to 99% of the speed of light?
Right.
It'll probably take a year. Even like if you go from 0 to 60 in a car in 2 seconds, let's say.
Like, yeah, it's like some of the supercars can do that. So.
Maybe not 2 seconds, but 2 seconds. Like if we're in a spaceship and we want to speed up really fast, okay, let's just say 1 second, right? Let's start with 1 second. So we're gonna accelerate 60 miles per hour. What's the speed of light?
The speed of light is here. I got it up on here. So I will do some high level mathematics here.
Yeah, I'm about to do that too.
So okay, so if we do
what's the speed of light?
Like a cross multiplication kind of thing. So 60 in 1 second. So 60 over 1. Times 299,000. Oh, that's meters per second, actually, in miles per hour.
Are you sure that's the speed of light?
Speed of light is 670,616,629 miles per hour.
All right, let's just do million. 660 million divided by 60. That's how many seconds it would take to reach it, which is 11 million.
11 million seconds, which
All right, then you divide by 60 to get to minutes. Then you divide by 24 to get to.
Hours.
I should add
No, 60 to hours, then 24 to days.
Okay, 60 to hours. Divided by 24.
Divided by 365. If you can get any lower.
It's 100. It's 127 days.
Okay, which is not as
okay,
much
now
as you
I want you to imagine.
think realistically, but still,
Imagine here for a second, accelerating at 60 miles
a second.
a second.
Yes,
That's like
that's really fast.
way faster than the
Not even a
fastest
supercar. Yeah,
How do you survive for 127 days doing that? You'd just be glued back. How do you?
Because you can stay at 60 miles an hour, like, and don't have not have an issue with I mean, you've been on road trips before. Like everyone's been on or even just for 20 minutes, try to do a city on the highway, and you can stay at 60 miles an hour and be fine. But when you're constantly adding 60 miles per hour a second for 127 days, then you're constantly going to be affected by inertia.
So you're constantly pinned to your seat. How do you eat? How do you sleep?
Yeah.
So it's really...
Unless you might get used to it, but I don't think your body can get used to that kind of change in...
But let's say, what's the fastest acceleration that has ever occurred? Right? Like when the...
Oh, okay. I guess maybe a rocket.
What about when Apollo took off or whatever?
Well, yeah. Though that, I mean, there's so much weight associated with rockets in general, so I don't know if that necessarily... I mean, if you watch the videos where the rockets take off, it's not really...
Okay, fastest accelerating car. 0 to 60... 2.5 seconds.
That's the fastest.
Yeah.
So this is, 40% of that? 1 second is 40%. So that would be...
It's over 100% time.
So if you went in the fastest car, so multiply that by, was it 2.5, the number? Mm-hmm. So 127 days by 2.5.
Here we go. What about this? Fastest accelerating motorcycle.
Oh, is that faster?
Yeah, it's probably a lot faster. If I can find it. So lightweight, but...
Depends.
I can't find it.
But with an actual rocket, that's the thing. That's going to be a lot heavier.
0 to 60 in 2.35 seconds.
2.35. Though in space, it's interesting because if you go...
There's no air resistance in space. Yeah.
So you could potentially go super fast. But again, that is constantly accelerating.
But would you be feeling like if there's no air resistance... It wouldn't feel like you're accelerating as fast. Because when you're in a car, you hear it, you hear all the wind blowing by. It's like shaking the car. If you're going accelerating super fast.
Yeah.
So when you're in space, it's kind of just like you're gliding, but you're kind of gliding faster and faster.
Yeah.
Another problem is hitting stuff. What happens when you can't? Let's say there's a tiny little something sitting in space and it hits it.
Well, that's the thing. It's going at light speed. You can't really see out your windshield.
Yeah, because your anything hits you.
Light.
Is there stuff just floating around in space like that, or do they all collect into one thing? I know there's asteroids, but is there tiny little rocks?
Probably.
Tiny little rocks floating around. You hit one, it would just completely explode.
Yeah, especially if it was decently large. So you'd have to know what's in your way before you set a path and know exactly when that stuff is going to hit.
Even if it was a grain of sand, if it was a grain of sand that big. And you hit it going at light speed, it wouldn't exactly tear your ship apart, but it would go through your ship. It would go through unless your ship destroys
I'm not sure. Again, we aren't physics experts. I'm not sure how that would work. Okay, so a grain of sand being so light. I mean, I guess if you hit it at so fast,
it's like if you shot it out of a gun
at
the speed of light, and it would just
it would go
through. That's pretty much how it is.
Which would affect, yeah.
So and if you're hitting a bunch of grains of sand, pretty soon your ship is just gone.
Yeah.
As soon as you take off.
Yeah, so I don't think that's going to work.
But anyways, are we in a simulation?
Let's get back on topic here. But yeah, we're kind of talking about the technology that would get us to that point. But
how about this, Sam? How do you know that you are not the only one that's conscious?
I've thought about this before when I was maybe 10 or something like that. But because I know I'm conscious personally, but I could be not to Matthew. Because I don't know if Matthew's conscious because I'm looking at him. I'm like, okay, yeah, so he is clearly from my vision and my knowledge of how consciousness works, but he could not be. He could be a robot. I could be the only one that's being simulated, and someone's trying to look at some average person's life, and they could have chosen me. And so I'm looking at everyone else, and everyone else is kind of controlled by the environment.
Yeah, we're in a simulation. Like, what if we are in a simulation, but you're the only one that's real?
Yeah.
Like, someone took you from your real family, put you inside a simulation. Well, like, here's the thing. You're saying that. I could be thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah. And you probably are.
But you were programmed, and they told you to say that. So you're not conscious.
Exactly.
But I am...
And the programs would be so smart and technologically advanced that they could know exactly what you're thinking.
And think about this.
And think
right?
about what I'm going to say.
If you're saying the infinite universe, right? How are we going to simulate that, you know? Mm-hmm. There's an infinite universe, infinite things could be going on. There's no way a computer could process that.
Right.
You know what a computer could process? A 1 mile radius around me that constantly changes and only simulates what I need to see or what you need to see.
Right.
One person simulation.
Of course, they would have to remember the rest of like the world to
It's like last Thursday. It's like last Thursdayism, where you know what that is, right? Last Thursdayism.
The what? Sorry.
Last Thursdayism is the theory.
Thursdayism. Okay.
Yeah. So okay, this is what it is. It's a theory that the world was created last Thursday. And
you were implanted
memories? Everyone was created last Thursday. The pyramids were created last Thursday. And we were just put here. Everything here. History books. And we can look in all of our memories. All of our knowledge is in our head. It was just created last Thursday. And there's no way to deny that it could be true.
Yeah.
Because if your memories were created and then... I don't know, it's hard to think about. It screws with your mind.
Yeah. I mean... The one thing with that is like weathering. Like, so for example, things can get old.
Yeah.
So you know, like how, like for the pyramids and stuff, we kind of date the pyramids based on like the weathering. So we kind of we kind of know how they were made before.
But you just think you know what you're talking about because it was planted in your head. Right. Maybe what if the pyramids are just put there and they look weathered? Here's another thing about simulation, right? You look at everything and you see that it's made of matter or whatever.
Yep.
You think, oh, this is made of matter. But really, all they have to simulate is one big object. Like if you're simulating a video game, right? Yep. And you put in an apple. So we got an apple. It's just one object, one little number or whatever code you have to put in. Or for colors, there's probably more than one number in a coding. But it's one object. Apple.
Well, a number can be like multiple.
Yeah.
At one digit, I guess is.
So, in real life, we don't think of it like that.
Right.
This headphone case is not just one number. It's not just one object. There's atoms that make it up.
Yep.
And there's different things that are put in here and different elements. And when we cut it down, we'll be able to see specific atoms.
Right.
But what if it's only simulated until we look for it? Right now, this could just be one object, one apple.
Yeah.
And it won't turn into more. It won't. The simulation does not need to process every single atom inside of this until we decide to look at it.
Right.
Or behind me. The simulation does not need to process what's behind me.
I guess so. Well, if you play any video game and you're like walking around a certain map, it'll like load that certain map.
Yeah. And if you're looking in one direction in a video game, it doesn't load what's behind you until you turn around.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's just like the section you're in, I think. But like sometimes, like the things ahead of you could load, but they're like more blurry, like a lower resolution.
I think video games don't render what's behind you, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can turn.
I'm not sure. Because it would be pretty much like playing VR, and that takes a lot more computing processing. In VR, it loads all of it at. Actually, no. In VR, it doesn't load all of it at once. That's for sure. VR, it loads when you turn around, but. It takes a lot more computing processing to load everything that's around you because you're not looking at it, right? So it's like a full 360.
So
it doesn't load it until you turn around. So. And then it's getting rid of what you just moved away from. So that could be what's in here. We turn around, all of a sudden the simulation loads it in real quick. Or it could be loading like a 1 mile radius around. But here's the thing. You don't know if you're the only one that's in the simulation.
Well, because right now I'm thinking, okay, so Matthew is clearly just... the creator of me speaking indirectly through him right now. So now I
So
could
I'm
not be
your
thinking about
creator?
Matthew. I could be talking now to the creator. So
But I'm not
hello,
I'm
creator.
innocent. I'm just a. I'm
Oh,
just
sure.
a
Well, that's
guy.
what the creator would say in order to make you believe that you're real. But
Yeah, well,
you're
that's what a psychopath would say right before they go crazy and kill a bunch of people. I'm the only one in the simulation. You're all fake.
I mean, that's believable.
But here's the thing, though. Like, think about how weird civilization is. Just think
Yeah.
about it for a second. Like, you're told ever since you're born that, like, everyone else, you gotta, like, respect people and they're all, like, alive. But there's no proof that anyone else is, like, conscious than you. And, like, you do something bad, all of a sudden, oh, here comes the policeman.
Yep.
You, like, did something bad, now they're gonna lock you up.
But
Like,
the policeman's
what
not.
It's so weird to think about.
Yeah.
Like, this system that we have created. Actually, no, we did not create this. People hundreds of years ago created this system. We have no say in it. We were born into it.
Yep. Makes
Or it
sense.
was created last Thursday.
Last Thursday. There you go. When was last Thursday? I remember. I don't know.
You can't even remember.
No.
They made it so you can't remember
I don't
everything.
remember what you did last Thursday.
They don't
so.
make you remember that when they implanted you into the Matrix.
Hmm.
But
There we
okay,
go. I've actually never seen The Matrix. I probably should see it. I'm not sure.
policemen are kind of a weird concept if you think about it. Like, not just policemen, but like people making sure that you do what is supposedly good.
Right. Even though they were born into the same way that
Yeah.
you were.
Like, who are you to say what's
exactly.
good?
I
what's
was actually
bad?
the other day. Yeah.
We are the same freaking thing.
We're the
We
same
are both
person.
human.
We're all born.
We were
the
born in
same
this
way.
crazy freaking place. There's freaking
We don't
skyscrapers.
own. None of
over
us
here.
really own the owning stuff too. Like
about it.
people can own a land. Like, how did you get that land? Like that doesn't. Isn't everyone's
Like,
it's
we have
everyone's
just
Earth.
developed a system that we think makes sense, and all humans are just like zombies living life. They're like, yeah, I gotta go to work. I gotta make money. Like, why?
Yeah.
Honestly, like, why do you have to go to work just to make money so you can buy food to survive?
Mhm.
Oh, it's such a weird thing to think. Like, we're just thrown into this world. We don't have
Yep.
any choice to be here. All of a sudden, we're just here. We look around. There's like trees and like, what the hell?
Trees.
We're
That's
just
it,
here.
trees.
And there's a bunch of other people that are here too.
Yep.
We don't know if they're conscious or not, but there are people here. But they're just doing the same shit as you. They're
Right.
doing the same crap as you. They are just walking around just as zombied as you are.
Yep.
Going to the grocery store, doing this because their parents told them that that's what you have to do when you grow old.
Well, yeah. I mean, like everyone knows, like from 5 years of age and on, that like you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get a job, you're supposed to do all that. But like,
But why?
When you
Just
think
so I
about why-
can. It's like we're helping ourselves so we can help each other.
and I think this goes back to the point of why do we need to live? Now, I don't want to get philosophical here, but like,
Yeah.
why do we need to go to a job? So we get a job, okay, so we can get money to
Well,
buy
it's all about
food
reproduction.
for ourselves, so we can eat to fuel ourselves
system
to
we
go
have
to our job
created-
every day, and it just goes around in a circle.
Yeah, the system we've created
There's
is
no point.
meant for humans to successfully reproduce the best.
Like, what's the purpose?
Exactly, that's the only question. We're like a parasite. We planted on the earth,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden we've spread, and we're like, oh, we need to reproduce better. Now there's lots of us who need food,
Yep.
and we've like learned how to make food, so we all survive, and
Yep.
we're just expanding and growing and fighting each other. And our little parasites have like spread to different sides of this little ball floating
Yeah.
around, and they're angry at each other, and they like
What if Earth is a
attack.
cell and we're actually viruses taking over the cell?
yeah, this is
All right, back to simulation.
we are
I don't know what we're
wait, no,
talking
yeah,
about.
this is back to simulation. We are a computer virus, and we are destroying a
Cell.
megabyte. The Earth is a
In-
megabyte.
in the person's computer.
Maybe Earth is a hard drive. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
I don't know. We're
Earth
confusing
is a
ourselves
hard
at this point.
drive.
Okay.
And we need to press save. What happens? I don't know.
I don't know what we're talking about.
What
Okay.
happens when someone turns off the simulation?
Then we all die. Well, actually,
How long is the
if
simulation
they
been
save it and turn it off and turn it back on, we don't remember what's there not because they could stop it right now and then play it, and I wouldn't even know that there was like a 12-hour pause there. In fact, they could pause it right now. So now they pause it.
Maybe
And we're back.
Hey, think about this.
It could have been a billion years.
You ready
We
for
don't
a
know
mind screw?
Yep.
I don't want to say the other word.
that.
What if the simulation has only been running for a fraction of a second?
Like right now. Okay.
No,
On
no,
the
no,
simulation,
no, no,
I remember
like,
that
no,
second ago.
Everything, every history, every millions of years from the beginning of Earth, from the beginning of our universe, was a simulation that has only been running for a fraction of a second.
Like what do you mean?
Like, this whole reality that we know was simulated in such a short amount of time.
Okay, so like the
So the
person,
computer is so-
that's
no,
experiencing this reality is watching the simulation.
No, let's
over
say
like
let's say the simulation is meant to show 10 trillion years in the matter
In a
of
second.
5 minutes. So they look at the whole universe. We have a whole universe here.
Yep.
And in 10, or like let's say 1 minute, 10 trillion years in 1 minute, right?
Okay.
Press play. It's like really, it's like a, what do you call it? Like a stop motion, not stop motion, but a time lapse, right?
Time lapse. Yeah.
It's like a time lapse of snow falling on the ground, but it's for a universe in 10 trillion years. So you could see like everything happening, right? I don't know
Yep.
what it would look like. It would be like planets growing and falling instantly.
Yeah.
We are just in a tiny little fraction of that.
That's,
And we've already been simulated. We're just replaying our life over. We're just living our life in a fraction of a second out there because our time is slower than theirs.
Yep.
What if they don't have time? Time is
I
a
know.
thing that might just exist in our simulation. They're like, you know what? I wonder if I can make a simulation where things die over time.
Well, time is not a thing so much as it is a concept. Time is the,
Yeah, but
the
we
word
die.
used for passing. So if they said that sentence, that's over time,
No.
no matter what,
No.
because there's 2 seconds that they said that
See,
sentence
Sam,
in.
this
So
is where
time
you're
is a
wrong.
concept. Like, here's the thing: we could have a podcast in the future talking about time and like time travel in particular, and that's probably what we will do. But I mean, I just think that like time's a concept, so you can't just implement time into something and be like, oh, there we go, there's time. We have something different. Like that's time is just
So you're saying
the
that
word
no matter
used for
what,
explaining
time
what
has to
happens.
exist? Time exists no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Sam, think about it. If we're in a simulation, time could be something that doesn't exist in the world
Then how
where
would
we
how
are
would
simulated.
we work then?
Okay, think about this.
Because we would just be paused forever.
It's in a world. No,
Right.
no, okay.
And nothing would happen. We're not talking right now.
Time doesn't. Let's say you're in a second. Right? You're inside of a second.
That's a unit of time.
I'm giving you a unit of time to
Okay.
have it make sense for you.
All right.
You're inside of a second, and it just doesn't move. You're living in one moment, but you can still change stuff. That's really weird to think about.
Okay, so one frame, you mean? Like frame as in
Yeah, like if you're watching a movie, you press pause.
Yeah.
And you live your life in the pause
you
button.
can't do that though.
Why not?
Because you just be on the same moment.
Oh, you know what okay. So
you
there's
couldn't we couldn't have this podcast right now because we'd be paused. So even if it was going extremely slow, even if like 1 second would take a trillion years to go by, it would still happen over time.
Oh, this is crazy to think about. Because
Even if it's such a microscopic unit,
yeah, it's like
time,
it's
still
a pause
it's
frame.
still time.
Okay, so the whole universe from beginning to end, the universe is created. Everything evolves, and eventually the universe gets destroyed somehow. That would have happened in a frame of a movie, one picture, nothing else, right?
Well, that couldn't
Okay,
really happen
I'm just saying.
because that's
just thinking about it, right?
one frame is just
Is nothing,
Something.
but I'm trying to imagine what a world without time would look like,
you
right?
can't because
But just try to imagine this with me, right?
okay, I'm trying.
So it's hard. You can't be a human in a world without time. It's not possible because your brain, in order for it to send a signal from your eyes to your brain, it takes this time.
Yeah.
Right. But if there's no time, then it means that that's instant. There's no gap between what you see and what goes to your brain and what it processes.
Yeah.
And then when you move your hand,
If
no
it's
time
zero.
between it. So it's one frame. Everything is instant. Nothing takes time.
Okay.
Nothing
All right.
ages, nothing dies, but everything ages and dies
Yeah,
in
frame.
one exact instant.
If it doesn't, okay, interesting. But you couldn't slow it down
Yeah, we're not slowing it down. But
because there's no time,
we are.
or speed it up. I mean, is that right?
You can't slow down or speed.
Speed it up. slow down. I don't know.
I feel like
this is super complicated.
I'm talking about
But
something that doesn't make
it
sense.
makes sense. I do get your point, though. That's interesting. Because if everything's just completely instantaneous and happens all at once, then there's going to be no...
But the fourth dimension is time. Okay, want me to explain this for you?
Okay.
All right, first dimension.
We could save this for later, but
Okay, so let's say we are in
let's just do it now.
a fourth dimensional world. We can't really think about it, but right now we are able to move through this. Well, let's just start with dimension 1. It's a point, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, you can't actually... It's
Dimension
not-
0 is a point. It doesn't move anywhere. It doesn't have any width nor depth. It's just... It represents a spot. And nothing.
Which you can't see 'cause
there's
it
no
is nothing.
space.
It is
There's no
nothing.
space. It's just nothing, right?
Yeah.
Is nothing, right? Dimension 1, a line. So you have...
Which...
You can move back and forth.
Yeah.
You can move back and forth. So let's say it's like a piece of... No, it can't be a piece of paper. It's just like a ruler. It's a ruler that you set on its side and you just like walk.
It's
like
really
a
four
tightrope.
hypothetical situations because there's no object.
So
that's
the only
two-dimensional.
thing, if
Or
you're
one-dimensional.
a one-dimensional being, you can go back and then forth, or
Yeah.
just continue going straight. Maybe you can't even turn backwards because to turn backwards you'd have to like flip, I guess.
Well,
I don't know. I'm trying to explain it as in like moving through it, right? Because when you get to fourth dimension, you need that. Okay. Second dimension is on a piece of paper.
which is still has depth.
Well, it's an idea. It's a plane, right?
Plane. Yep.
If it, like a graph, it's a plane.
Okay.
Okay, so now you're just a little dot on the plane, and you can move around. You can do little loop-de-loops. You can do a figure 8. You can do whatever you want. You can move around.
Can't
Third
overlap.
dimension is what we are.
Yep.
And we can move freely among space.
Yep.
So this third dimension, I believe, is the end of space, as in like you can move
Physical
X,
objects.
Y, and Z. There's
Yes.
3 dimensions.
Yep.
There isn't a fourth dimension, as in moving around. Maybe there is, but I think if
No, well, as in the concept of space 3D is it because
Yeah.
you have width, depth, and height. So there's no other.
But I think if you were like a
thing.
2-dimensional being, right, and you're like, oh, I can move back and forth. Well, how come I can't like go up? You know, there'd be like something in your head, be like,
you
I can
wouldn't have
only
a
go
head
back.
because you wouldn't have any dimensions.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
There's-
saying.
but there'd be
I'm
no-
saying
no
if
atomic
you're walking
particles that would
around
allow
and
you
you
to
could
think
only walk like around, you know, you couldn't go up at all. You couldn't jump. I'm just like trying to describe
time?
this, right? Yeah,
Okay.
you just be like, I think there's another way I could move around here, but I can't do it. In third dimension, which is what we live right now, you can't really think of another way to move around. So I think fourth dimension is time. So if you're a fourth dimensional being, you could move anywhere around in space and pick a time location. So
All
a
right.
specific spot at a specific time.
Right.
So I'm here, XYZ, what time? That's the fourth dimension. And that's how Neil deGrasse Tyson explained it too. He said the fourth dimension is time because if you're going to give someone a location to meet you, right? If you're
Right.
going to give them a location to meet you, you say the X, the Y, the Z, and the time. Because you can't just show up at any time ever and meet them there.
Okay.
So
I
if you're
get it,
going
I
to
get
a
it.
location, if you're going somewhere in the fourth dimension, you need your 4 coordinates, and one of them is time.
That
So if
makes
you're
sense.
going-
That makes sense.
If you're going somewhere, yeah.
all right.
So
yeah.
then
yeah, I
anything,
get it.
you're moving through time to get to a location.
Smart.
Because every time you go there, it's a different location because it's different because time changed it. You know? So
Mhm.
that's kind of weird to think about, but if you
Makes
go there
sense.
1 year, it's a different location now because it's a year in the future. It's not the same location. Well, it's the same location in space, not in time.
Right. That makes sense.
It messes with your head. All right. You want to end the podcast there, I guess?
Probably. We did go on a lot of different tangents there, but it was pretty good. I think we explained it pretty well. We used some sources, kind of got our audience thinking. So
Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you later, boy.
with a guest next time.
Yeah,
probably.
hopefully. Guest.